our perception, I feel like, is so skewed. My first inclination when I thought about what we should talk about in regards to this was like how people are with authority. And so I looked up the Milgram study that I remember learning about in like a sociology or psychology class, where people literally were under the belief that they were shocking someone all, to the point of great harm, great injury, great death, hearing them scream out. And because a person in a lab coat was like, we have to continue with this. We have to continue with the experiment. The experiment calls for this. And an alarming number of people going along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, that reminds me of this because of the way in which people are comfortable to have the conversation of like, is it's okay that he murdered somebody, right? Like it's cool that they was a murderer though.
Mm-hmm.
Like actually they have a reason to be a murderer. Like what?
For real. And this is not somebody who's on the streets, okay? This is a police officer who's supposed to have training for this, who's supposed to be prepared for this, you know what I'm saying, who has a gun and a taser that they're supposed to be able to use. All right? This is a specialized, specially trained person who's supposed to be able to handle these situations. And speaking of special training, let's actually get into some videos of police officers and how they've handled situations before. You know, because I feel like that way we can see what's possible, okay, for the police force. And this issue, to me, is a structural issue. You know, it's a foundational issue. The structure of the police force and also a lot of structures of this country are based in racism and prejudice. And it's prevalent in every single police force that there is. All right. And there may be a couple of good cops here and there, but when you really talk to police officers, I talked to a former police officer. He says he feels bad for what people have done because he tried. Okay, he spent a lot of time snitching on other police officers, and those cops still work there. Okay, but he had to leave because it was too much for him. He didn't want to keep putting his neck on the line for that. And when you talk to police
He was a
officers,
black man.
he was a black man, especially black police officers, they'll tell you how it really is and how much stuff police officers do and how much they get away with. And I told him, I'm like, look, I think that some of these guys really just get off on like being able to dominate somebody else and have this kind of like action movie kind of like, I don't know, fantasy in their
I'm
mind.
a superhero.
I'm a superhero kind of thing. And he, again, was in the police force for a very long time. He said, you know what? I have to agree with you. Okay. What he said, and it was very specific, right? He said the police officers who are not as physically gifted as officers like himself, because he's a very physically active person and
Athletic.
an athletic person. All right. The officers who are not as gifted were usually the ones to become more violent. Okay. And violent out the gate. Before anything's even popping off, they're going to straight up agitate it. They're going to instigate it. They're going to do the most. And I want to, before I start these videos, I want to share a little anecdote with y'all. And it's personal to us. Okay. Because the other day we got stopped. All right. And we've been stopped before. And being a black couple, it's the same thing. No matter where I'm sitting at, they're going to come to her side of the car every time. Okay, I could be sitting in the driver's seat. They're coming to her side. I could be sitting in the
I could
passenger
be
seat.
in the driver's seat.
They're coming to her side. Okay, and also,
But they surround the car though.
they do, and they always bring backup. Every single time they bring backup, like it. So first of all, they're not gonna stop us unless they have two officers in the car. Then they're gonna call backup, so two more officers are gonna come. All right, and even if she's driving, they're gonna check my ID. All right, and ask 50 million questions. But these officers, thank the Lord, nothing happened. Okay, and we actually got a warning because it was her car, and they were like, "Ma'am, is this your car? Your car? Your car? You sure?
And
Your
I
car?"
told him the whole thing, like, dude, I ain't drove this car. Like, I gotta update
Oh my
things on the
god.
car. Like, and I wanted to ask him, like, what is it like for you to be a police officer right now? But he already left, and he already had handed me back his license. And I was like,
Came to her side.
why are you giving me
Took
his license
took my license from her.
and not giving it to him? And I had to ask him, like, what does that feel like to be, I mean, so clearly not seen, and then seen as a threat at the same time. Not seen for who you are.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a human being, all right.
But then also seen as like a
I'm some kind of
monster.
op. All
Like
right.
some kind of mythical
Beast. I'm a creature.
right, that gotta be slayed, which really plays into that whole
Like movie fantasy.
superhero. Yeah. Yeah. It's wild.
Exactly.
It's wild.
It is. It
And that's
is.
why I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get how disconnected even from like cultural and historical context
It don't make
that
no
people
sense.
are, that they would, I mean, I guess science, right?
It don't make no
Milgram's
sense.
experiment.
Milgram's experiment. I mean, I feel like some of these people got bad intentions. I ain't gonna front.
I agree with you. And at the end of the day, it's like we can't measure intentions, but we are not going to act ignorant either. We're not
Nope.
going to act like we don't understand or we don't know the landscape of our
Mm-hmm.
culture and our history on this land at this time and what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Or else we're ignorant.
That's true.
And that is the kind of way I feel like people are having these conversations. It's a very very like an insulated way of thinking, but also a very much in line with what's been propagated for years thinking. It's like you don't even know how colonized your own mind is, how your own lens of looking at people is.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Not that I blame people, because I used to be very hyphy, you know, in much less conscious ways than I am now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I feel it.
I've always been a curious person, and it's like you can't get anywhere without curiosity and critical thought. I mean, you can't get anywhere. You can stay where you at, but you can't get where anywhere. And you know,
Yeah, I agree.
I got here, right?
Hey.
At some point, you got to take responsibility for your own mental liberation.
Today is the time.